Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of 321 Binge, a podcast where every week, me and my two co-hosts pick a theme, find 3 shows or movies based around it, binge them, discuss them, and rank them. Joining me is my co-host, Faison.
Hey, how's it going?
And my co-host, Tyler.
What's up? How's it going?
And for our first week, we decided comic book adaptations, specifically TV shows, for our opening episode.
And what 3 shows are those?
We're going to talk about The Boys, Doom Patrol, and Watchmen.
Gotta say, all 3 of these were very good.
Yeah, varying levels.
They're still pretty good, though.
Yeah, I mean...
They're all watchable. They're all very watchable.
They're all watchable. One of them emotionally disappointed me when I first watched it, and now I just feel weird about. And then the other one...
I feel like you hated on it a bit too much, but go on.
I mean, we'll get there.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was too... We'll get there. We should probably actually open up with The Boys. Amazon Prime's 2019 release. Yep. All right, Tyler, you know more about that.
In season 2 now?
Currently airing season 2, which none of us here have watched because
that's a lie.
Yeah, I've actually
none of us here have watched. All right.
Yeah,
none of us here have
watched it. Okay.
Chris, we don't want to lie yet.
Good point. Tyler, this was your pick actually.
It
for
was
the week, so this is your responsibility.
It is.
Like your child. Talk about it.
All right. Well,
actually, no. Summarize it first, because there's probably people who haven't seen it.
If you haven't seen it, it's the Amazon Prime show in which superheroes are portrayed. It's basically if Superman and the Justice League were complete assholes.
Also, just a huge money-making scheme.
All just for money. Just all the movies that you see are basically them actually acting in it just for money. And they're basically showing that even if you have powers, that doesn't make you a good person. So the main characters you follow are people without powers, the boys who hate superheroes. Well, one of the main characters, Billy Butcher, he hates superheroes for reasons, and you just get to see why.
His girlfriend got obliterated by the equivalent of the Flash on drugs. So I mean, that's
not
a pretty
like
good reason.
No, that's
Huey.
That's Huey, dude.
Butcher.
Oh, I'm talking about Butcher. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about
the,
Huey.
No, because we're gonna get to what happened with Butcher later.
Yeah, Butcher is definitely a situation.
Yeah, but Huey's main girlfriend explodes because of the Flash.
Yeah, basically. Like Tyler said, pretty much every superhero here is a riff on DC. We have
Homelander.
Homelander,
which is like basically Superman.
Yeah, I was about to say All Might. My wires crossed.
Who?
You haven't seen it yet, Tyler, but it's on the list. The Deep is Aquaman, but also a rapist.
Also sucks. He's like the worst character.
He's fucking awful, and it's great to watch him
I mean,
suffer.
it's basically a parody on the actual Aquaman.
No. Hold on. I am an Aquaman defender. So
I get you are, but like the public perspective.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a parody on how
sucks,
people see Aquaman. That's not how Aquaman is, and I'll die on that fucking hill. But it is a parody on how people see Aquaman. He, again, also a rapist. Then we have Queen Maeve, who is literally Wonder Woman.
And then our favorite one, Black Noir.
Black Noir, who is Batman, but he talks a bit less. And
a lot less.
Just a bit less.
I don't think he said like maybe one word.
No, he hasn't said a single word. He has not spoken yet. I wonder if it's going to be like...
I thought he said Butcher's name, but I guess not.
Nope.
I picture it like the scene from X-Men Origins where we see Deadpool and his mouth is just sewn together. We're just going to rip off Black Noir's mask and it's just melded together, no lips.
I could see that.
Yeah. So for this show, between the 3 shows we're talking about today, this show has absolutely nothing interesting to say. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's like, I mean, like we're comparing it. It's a bit out of its weight.
I think we're comparing it to 2 other shows that have a lot to say.
Yeah, that tends to be most of the problem.
That's the biggest problem with it.
It's not very dense. Like it's very simple. Superheroes are assholes. There's an entire public market based around it. And money bad. So it's like consumerism bad, idolism bad. It's like, okay, like these are things that you're saying. These are things that we know and have seen other things do. So it's like, it's not interesting, but it's really fucking fun.
Yeah.
It's
I wouldn't say the show is not interesting.
I mean, it's not interesting from like an analytical perspective. Like there's not a whole lot to
there's
to
no
really
like real like
it.
deeper meaning.
No, you just theorize about what's going to happen next. It's not
it's fun. It's like, I think the way I described it at one point to you guys, it's like a fucking soap opera. It really feels like it's like a soap opera junk food type movie. It's like eating candy that you just
start watching it.
You just start watching it. You can't stop. It's not like I'm here like, wow, this is like the best show of 2019 or even the best superhero show of 2019. But it's like
Yeah, I'd say
it's
it's like
fucking fun. It's fucking stupid.
Mm.
It has some great performances. It has some of the most cringe shit I have ever fucking seen.
yeah.
Well, define cringe.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Not like
Not in
oh
a
god,
bad
that's
way.
so cringy. Like more like oh god, I'm
That just
flinching.
happened.
Yeah.
She crushed him with her thighs. That's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple scenes like that, which I mean that deserves. Dear God. Yeah, it's.
I don't know. The gills part was also way worse than that.
Way.
You want me to
way
fuck you in
worse.
your gills?
Oh my
I really
God.
think that's.
Chris,
one
you
of
want to go into what that scene was, and for just referencing it?
You know what? Yeah, for context, the Deep, the Aquaman rapist ripoff, gets outed as a rapist, and thus the company that runs the Seven, which is the name of the superhero team, the company that runs them decides they want to take him off the table for a little bit. They send him to this backwater town in I think it was like Washington or something.
nowhere.
It's
Yeah,
Cleveland. It's Cleveland.
Okay,
It's
they-
Cleveland.
Bumfuck nowhere.
It's Cleveland.
Yeah, they send him to fucking Cleveland, and he hooks up this
Insulting
This
the Cleveland fans immediately.
chick. I really want to make
All
sure
10
I
of them are
insult.
sure sad.
I want to insult every demographic who watches us as much as I can. That's really my end goal here.
Be creepy if they're watching us since this is an audio podcast.
Fuck you. So yeah, the Deep hooks up with this chick in Cleveland, and she wants him to take off his shirt. He doesn't want to take off his shirt. She gets him to, and he shows that he actually has horrible, disgusting fish gills all over his body.
Yeah, they looked pretty nasty.
They
They
look-
didn't even look like normal gills.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
I've seen a clip of season 2 involving these gills, and Tyler, I might need you to confirm this. Can he talk to his gills, Tyler?
Oh, that scene, yeah. No. That's because of. Did you just see the clip? Did you see
I just
why?
saw I just saw the fucking gills talking.
He's
back.
tripping.
He's stripping.
Yeah.
And so why are the gills? Wait, no, I want to know why are the gills talking back to him?
Because he's tripping.
The boys, ladies and gentlemen.
What other reason would that happen?
I don't know. I thought maybe because okay. So again, for context for everybody, all of these superheroes in this world are made in a lab. They're built. They're not born naturally. They're built by this company.
Spoilers, because that's later on in the season.
Well, too late now.
Granted, if you knew what you're getting into.
Yeah,
at
I mean,
this point.
we'll be real with you. We're gonna spoil pretty much everything we talk about here.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to talk
it's hard
about
not-
it.
it's hard to-
you can't get around it, so.
Spoil it.
it's hard to discuss something properly when you can't talk about the ending. So yeah, every superhero is made in the lab. They're homegrown little designer babies. So I kind of was thinking when I saw that clip, I'm like, oh, did they fuse a baby with a fish? And now there is fish inside the Deep, and he's talking to the fish, and the fish is talking back.
Maybe you were tripping.
Yeah, I don't know
No,
how
I
you
mean,
got
okay,
that one.
what are you gonna fucking think when you see a random scene of the Deep talking
Drugs.
to his own gills? I
Drugs.
mean, I wasn't thinking drugs. I was thinking fish babies, personally.
Why?
Well, like, where was your mind when you were thinking fish babies?
It was 2 a.m. watching clips of shit on YouTube, clearly. But like, no, I mean, it makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
It like okay, so like I mean, it does. The company builds these super babies, and we don't know how they do it. They pump them full of drugs.
So you thought? I don't even know what you think. Keep going.
I thought that they fused a baby with fish parts, thus the gills, and because of that, the Deep was
Okay.
able to
Anyways,
communicate to his
let's,
baby fish parts.
Maybe-
Anyway, he hooks up with a chick. She starts fingering his gills. That's where the episode goes. It is a lot, and it's very painful to look at and hear. It's a lot.
They do a good job of making, I mean, spoiler for season 2. Obviously, it's there's going to be a redemption thing for him based on that whole scene.
Really, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like, the Deep is a terrible person.
Yeah.
I really love just
I mean,
watching him get
they
the shit knocked out of
do a
him.
great job of making all the superheroes seem like terrible people.
I mean, I would say.
I mean, not all
Maeve,
of them, but-
Maeve is
Maeve
like,
is
kind of a
is
dick,
good.
but like not really.
But, like,
because she's just screwed
I
by
mean,
Homelander.
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
They make her just seem like somebody that had a lot of hope that got just fucking crushed
Yeah.
over years of working.
So
with
basically,
Homelander.
Starlight in 5 years of things she didn't.
Yeah.
Huey,
Yeah,
probably.
probably.
Yeah,
and then,
I mean,
and then Black Noir is just Black Noir.
Black
He's
Noir is
just the best.
I know. You know what? This is a good point to get to. I've read a little bit of the boys' comics. I don't like them. I think they're kind of garbage.
Based on what I heard about the comics, they're way more just edgy for the fuck
They're
of it.
really edgy, and
Compared to the show, which is like, all right, we'll take these ideas, we'll still have the, oh, this is fucked up, but actually give some depth to it.
Well, yeah, actually, I was telling you about this one before we started watching it. I went into this show with very, very, very low expectations because I had already read some of the comic. And personally, I'm not a huge fan of like super edgy shows and super edgy movies. They always come off as like
Too try hard.
yeah, they come off as like something like a 14-year-old would write. You know, it's like, and then there's
I'm
blood,
14
and then he
deep.
kicked the fetus, and it's like, okay, great, that's not really interesting. And that's literally what The Boys is. And that's not the show.
Is that line in there too?
Well, no, it's not a line. He literally kicks.
No, that's what I mean. Like,
Butcher
it's that
kicks a
part.
fetus. He
Okay.
kills a fetus. It's awful. And actually, I think I'm gonna have to get back to that in a bit. But yeah, like it's super fucking try hard edgy. And I think the worst part about it is that it has like, okay, so you could say that The Boys, even though it doesn't really have anything to say, that it is a bare minimum. It is a satire of the MCU. Right, it's a satire of the
Yeah.
superhero genre that's gotten incredibly popular and that's making tons and tons of fucking money.
I think it's
well,
like
to some degree.
both. Well, it doesn't not necessarily stick to MCU. It could
Well,
be DC.
it adds the whole concept of like the movies and the cinematic universe and all this shit. Like that's a direct reference to the MCU.
DC did the
Okay,
same
yeah,
thing.
okay, sorry. Let's talk about the one that's doing it well right now, the MCU.
Fair. I mean, granted. Yeah,
it
fair.
also
Yeah.
it just does a good job of putting like perspective on what would actually happen if superheroes were a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well-
because 100% not everyone
Come on,
would be a
let's
good
be
person
honest,
with
like,
it.
there-
Someone would be an
like-
asshole.
no, 100%. But the thing is that like since the show is a satire of the MCU, it does have like something to say, quote unquote. Whereas the comics came out in like late 90s, early 2000s was most of the run. In which case, all other comics were equally as edgy. So it wasn't like it was being like, here's an edgy version of the of like other mainline.
Yeah, it
mainline
was like a
comics.
pretty normal comic.
Yeah,
at the
it was just
time.
like a normal comics. Like, let's just see if I ramp it up a little bit. Like that. This is around the same time we had like in Marvel we had the Blob eat the Wasp, just eat her like in
For no
pieces.
reason.
Yeah, it was a shitty run. So like this wasn't anything new or crazy. This was just kind of like more edgy, and I couldn't enjoy it for that. But the show treads a line really well, and it manages to feel like it's morbid and it's dark at times, but it's also really fucking humorous,
Yeah.
and it ends up being like just fucking hilarious at times.
I mean, Butcher's hilarious just because he's great.
Yeah, I mean Butcher is a fucking great performance.
Black
Uh,
Noir is hilarious because it's just a literal silent killer.
Yeah, I mean Faison, you said you saw like a bit of the first episode of season 2.
I watched the first episode. Of
Okay,
season
so I saw half of the first episode of season 2.
So we're just gonna talk about Black
So
Noir then?
we're just gonna talk about Black Noir's scene in there where he goes to the Middle East, he murders a shit ton of people, including a super, and he finds a child. And for a second there, I'm like, oh, he's gonna fucking murder this child. And instead, he grabs the stuffed animal that the child has and
He-
like plays with it in
He
front of him.
grabbed the
and gives
stuffed
it to him.
bunny, but on his other
And his-
hand is his dad's decapitated head.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, wow, this is fucking hilarious.
But here's the thing: he's not doing that as a "oh ha ha ha, I killed your dad."
No, he's genuinely
doing
trying
that
to
as like
comfort-
"oh shit, there's a kid here."
Like, whoops, my bad.
Yeah.
He's genuinely trying to comfort this kid, and that's just Black Noir's way of doing it. I know a little bit of Black Noir from the comics. I'm not going to say this for you guys because you guys want to watch season 2, and I'm going to also watch season 2. If they keep it from the comics, it's going to be very weird. It's going to be very fucking weird. So I don't know if they'll do it, but we'll see.
I
how
mean,
that
he's
all
in
goes.
he's in season 2 a lot more.
Okay.
They don't give
They don't give like any backstory, I guess, right?
no, but he's doing something. So
Okay, well that's pretty interesting. I guess we'll see how that all goes.
yeah,
Do we want to talk about favorite characters? I'm assuming yours both is.
is it everyone's gonna be Homelander or Butcher?
Well, I mean, if your favorite character is Homelander, I hope it's for the performance.
Oh,
Otherwise-
performance. The best performance is
Actually, I
Homelander,
was
yeah.
gonna say Homelander because
His performance is the best
he's
one.
just such an asshole.
He's such
Like, he's such a horrible person.
And every time even when he's not on screen, you just feel tension. If someone's alone and you're just watching, it's like, oh, he's gonna come through
He
a
just
window.
gives off like the rapiest vibes of all time.
Oh yeah.
Anytime he's in like a single scene with any other female, it's just like, man.
Wait, Chris, how far into that episode did you get?
I'm pretty sure I ended with the baby being the toy. The toy. And
Oh,
the
so
kid.
you didn't see after that?
No, I only finished Black Noir.
Ah,
Yeah,
damn it, I wanna
you
mention
missed
that.
A lot.
I didn't get to finish it, and
You should finish it.
Because there's one part me and Faison both
We
wanna
have
talk
the
about.
intention to
Yeah.
do a reprisal at some point.
Well, I
and,
mean, yeah,
talk
we're gonna
about
do
season
that, but
2.
still.
Yeah, we'll get to that another year or so from now.
But anyway, if you want to just like the
Yeah,
plane
what-
scene,
What?
the plane scene of Homelander
Oh,
is
yeah.
just the
Yeah, that's kind of what cemented him being one of my favorite characters.
I mean,
but
it-
not like
it's
I don't.
such a
I
good
hate him as a
performance.
person.
Yeah.
oh
Like-
yeah,
like,
he's terrible.
You have to hate him, but it's such a good performance. Like
It really is.
it really it's shocking how much of an asshole he can act like. Like I said this to Tyler that what's the name of the guy who plays Homelander? Do you know?
Anthony Starr.
Anthony Starr could play fucking Reverse Flash in
Yeah.
a Flash movie so fucking well because it's kind of like a similar thing. It's like this. It's like when Homelander's being a proper dick.
Except,
That's 90% of Reverse Flash.
well,
but
Reverse Flash does it purposely to
Eobard
fuck
Thrawn,
with.
Reverse Flash. Yeah.
He does it purposely to fuck with Flash. I mean, Homelander does a bunch of stuff to purposely fuck with Butcher,
yeah.
but at the same time, the plane scene, he just didn't care enough to
I mean,
control
for
his
him,
lasers.
that was like for the like greater good kind of thing, where it was like we
was
let,
their
we
greater
let these
good.
people die so that I can go out and fight more like supervillains.
Oh, but even before
Or,
that, like
Yeah.
the plane
make the
was.
company richer.
Yeah,
He stopped the terrorists, but he stopped the terrorists by not giving a shit about his lasers.
Yeah.
He literally is like, all right, I'll just kill them. It's like, oh, wait, this goes through everything. So he kills the pilots, too, and he's like, oh, well, it's going down.
Yeah. I mean, that
yeah,
that
but
is
I'm sure he could have saved it somehow.
He gave the reasoning of if he, like, does what everyone thinks Superman could do is catch a plane is,
I
in
do love that
reality-
reasoning.
in
I-
reality, if he does that, the whole plane's going to go down
either
anyway.
he goes right
Yeah,
through
yeah.
it or like he can't just lift it because there's nothing to push against. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, that was pretty fucking interesting. I like that. That was like a thing. I don't think I've ever actually given it thought when you see it in a movie.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
if
yeah,
he
you
does
just
it
assume
like,
like,
that.
oh, he's strong as fuck. Like,
Yeah, he's
it's
got
fine.
this.
Yeah.
He's got super strength. That's
So
fine.
at the same time, like, obviously the plane, he caused it because he doesn't care about his lasers.
Mhm.
He didn't, after that, I don't know what I'm saying.
That's not-
The
that's not
plane
you,
thing,
Tyler.
him trying to save the plane is like not justifiable, but it's like, all right, he has a reason that they're gonna die anyway.
Yeah,
if
but
he did
I
that.
feel like he kind of didn't even care about the plane in the first
Oh, he
place.
didn't. That's
no,
why
he
I'm
cared
saying.
about publicity.
Yeah, that's why him
And-
saying him doing with. He could have punched both of those people instead of
Yeah.
lasing them.
No, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I feel like the whole thing was just like for a greater
I mean,
good
that's
kinda
the whole
thing.
point. That none of them care.
Yeah.
They're pretty much all in it. Most of them are in it for the money and for the fame.
Homelander's 100% in it for the fame.
Yeah.
His whole relationship
the
with
fame and his mommy issues.
Yeah, is that he wants to be loved.
Yeah.
Can we talk about mommy milkers?
How much time we got?
Jesus Christ. Homelander
I
has
actually would
deep-seated
rather not
mommy
talk
issues.
about that scene.
No.
It was
We're gonna
very,
talk.
very
We're gonna
uncomfortable.
talk about all of Homelander's deep-seated mommy issues.
Well, this is gonna be our longest episode at 4 hours.
No, I changed my mind. I don't want to talk about that. That makes me fucking uncomfortable. I don't like it. It is deeply, deeply weird, and yet also not the weirdest thing we see in this show.
You don't think so?
I personally,
Is your top one the gills or the exploding head?
So that was gonna say. I think for me the weirdest thing we see physically is the Deep get his gills fucked, and I think that
I don't know. I think that the weirdest one was when he had who's the guy that transforms into people?
oh god, yeah, no, we don't really even know that character's name. The
Get-
shapeshifter.
Doppelganger. I think.
Yeah,
I'll think of it.
doppelganger.
He forces him to transform into
Yeah, it's
whatever.
it was into
Stillwater?
Stay into Stillwater,
Yeah.
and like he's,
yeah, he's riding that dude. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, that is the weirdest thing we see. I actually had purged that
Yeah,
from
it
my
was that
memory.
bad.
and
Oh,
I'm
see,
not-
you picked that one in Purge. I picked the gill one to get rid
Yeah,
of.
I didn't want to remember that. So thank you for making me picture that in my
That's
head.
what I'm here for.
Um,
If I have to remember it, so do you.
Great. I mean, that ironically, that completely blows the next thing I was going to say out of the water. I was going to say the scene that made me like flinch the most was when a chick is riding on this guy's face.
When
and then
Pop Claude pops the guy's head.
yeah,
Yeah.
where she squeezes her thighs so hard that his head explodes. And right before it explodes, you can like see it crack like a watermelon, and it's just
Honestly, though,
awful.
the gore in the show really well done.
It's really
Yeah,
well
it's
done.
so
No,
well
it's-
done.
it honestly
maybe
for
a
the amount
little
they
too
have-
realistic. I kind of was uncomfortable.
Yeah,
there's
for
a
the
lot
amount
of
they have, it looks
moments.
great.
A
Yeah.
lot of moments.
I mean, the fact that the first episode literally opened with
An explosion. A
somebody
girl
getting
exploding.
ran through.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to him blood all over his face, holding the hands.
Yep.
Like that was probably the scene I've seen the most of online, and I
Well,
didn't know
yeah,
at
it's
first
the
it was
first
from
one.
the boys,
Yeah.
and I'm glad it was in the first episode because that would have been a bummer to miss out on like
It's
or
the
to-
finale.
Yeah, series finale. That's how it happens. Yeah, no, it does a great job with his gore, but we've actually spent a lot of time talking about the superheroes, but the boys themselves we've barely touched on.
Yes.
true.
I think the boys give some of the best performances in the whole show as a group. Like
Between-
Carl Urban as the Butcher, he's
Mhm.
fucking great. He is having so much fucking fun, and I'm having so much fucking fun watching him.
But at the same time, he is still an asshole.
He's a total asshole. He's a total
I
fucking.
mean,
he's
doing
British.
this whole thing for revenge.
Yeah,
Yeah, but even then, he barely cares about.
anything.
That's what I'm saying.
Besides
he's
that, yeah.
kind of like the like
He's like anti-Homelander.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like Homelander in a sense, though.
Yeah, that doesn't
like-
care.
it's like-
he doesn't. He
and then
doesn't
he
care.
and then
he
he
has,
hates superheroes.
Yeah, he has one goal in mind,
Yeah.
and he doesn't care what happens.
It's like two sides of a coin, basically.
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah,
He is completely obsessed and fixed, and will do anything it takes to get his goals. I do wonder how that's going to affect season 2. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I do wonder. But I gotta say, Carl Urban's performance is fucking fantastic. Like,
Oh yeah.
Carl Urban is one of those actors who you don't even realize he's in the movie sometimes.
Because he's never a leading man. That's
He's
like
he's
Dredd.
very rarely a leading man, and you barely recognize he's in the movie. But then when you think about that movie, you're like, oh man, this character was really great. Like he's in Thor Ragnarok as Scourge, does a great fucking job as Scourge. He's in the Star Trek movies as Scotty. Scotty? No, Dr. McCoy. I think it might be McCoy.
Probably.
Does a great job as McCoy. He's in fucking Lord of the Rings as Theoden's nephew, whose name I don't remember. Faison, looking at you as our...
That's you two
don't-
guys.
I
I got
don't
nothing on
remember.
that.
Yeah, well, you've seen him now, finally.
Well, yeah, but you know them.
Yeah, I always forget his Theoden's...
Elro something or whatever. I don't fucking
El-
remember.
no. Theoden's nephew. He always does these roles, and I never realized they're him. Like even I'm like, oh, Carl Urban, I recognize him from Star Trek, and then I search it up. I'm like, oh, that's right, he was in all these other movies I enjoyed too, and he's always fucking great.
Because he's always not background, but like supporting character more than lead.
Yeah.
And he is actually
Here being a
one
lead-
of the leads in
yeah,
this.
here being like arguably the head lead is kind of fucking great. On top of that, we also have like a lot of other performances by like within the boys. Huey's performance is pretty good. I really like it.
He always is good because he's the straight man to all the bad shit.
Yeah, he's a straight man to all the fucking insane shit.
Yeah.
Like he's the one normal person in the group.
Yeah.
I mean,
Frenchie-
he only got in there to avenge his girlfriend, but now he's like, oh fuck, I'm too deep to get out of it.
I mean, he was too deep the first episode.
That's
Or
what I mean,
second
after
episode,
that.
Yeah.
where
Ah,
they
yeah, when he
fucking
killed
chopped up
Translucent.
Translucent.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and put a bomb in his ass.
Frenchie did that, so
Well, true, but he was an accomplice to putting a bomb in a man's ass.
fair.
he's the one that pushed the trigger.
Yeah, that's true. It
well,
does. fall
Frenchie
on him.
pushed something else then.
Jesus Christ! And speak of the devil, Frenchie is probably one of the most fun characters on this show.
I agree.
I
One,
love-
of, one of my favorite characters.
I love. Yeah, I love it. I love
Small hint for the season 2, he does have a backstory episode, and it's great.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting. Actually, kind of curious about that now. I never really thought about Frenchie's backstory. until
he
you
also has a
mentioned it.
pretty good French accent, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't know
is
if he-
is he French in real life? I think he is.
I have no
I think I
idea.
saw an interview with him. I'm pretty sure he's French. We'll let Tyler pull that up as we talk about. I think probably the best performance in The Boys, which is going to be a weird one to say. Kimiko. I think Kimiko
Yeah.
is really good. 'cause
She's really, really
She
good.
says nothing. She does not fucking talk the whole time. And unlike Black Noir, she's not in a mask. So she is doing all of her acting completely via facial
Yeah,
expressions,
which is really hard to do.
really hard to do, really impressive. When I didn't, you don't even think about it at first. You're watching it and you kind of like you get everything from her. You don't think about it, but then when you kind of like you look back and you say, oh wow, she never spoke throughout the entirety of the show, really.
And it's impressive.
And it's it's impressive. This performance is fantastic for that.
yeah.
As for Frenchie, he's Israeli.
Really,
Yeah.
is he French Australian?
Israeli.
Oh, he's
Where the hell did you get Australian?
Yeah, so
Nothing?
he's
Alright.
French Israeli.
No.
No, he's not French at all.
Okay, well that makes his French accent even more impressive, unless he lived in France for a time. You don't know that.
All right, I guess we should touch on the last character of the boys, Mother Milk.
Mother Milk. Mother Milk's nice. Mother Milk is like a secondary strain.
Yeah, I was about to say I didn't really like him because he doesn't like say much or do much.
I like him.
bas-
He's like a pillar. You know, he's like the structure that he's like the sane man that everything else is built around.
Yeah, I just
He's
felt
like a
he
second
was
Huey
there.
because
Yeah.
they're both in the same of they realize Butcher is insane half the time, but they go along with it because they want the same thing, kind of.
He's
Even though
Huey in
Butcher
5
was,
years.
he's Butcher, he's Huey after dealing with Butcher shit.
Yeah, 5 years. Let's say if you give him that long.
Yeah.
I guess one last thing I do want to talk about. I know Tyler mentioned that this show has like almost a gray filter over it.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm not sure if this was intentional, but I do want to mention it that this show has. It feels like it's meant to be like not a critique, but almost somewhat referential to like the Bush administration. Like you have like pray away the gay. There's war in the Middle East. These.
yeah.
Anti-Muslim sentiment. This gray filter over the whole fucking show that feels a lot like early 2000s movies during that administration. I can't help but feel like there's supposed to be some connective tissue there. Like there's something intentional. I don't know what it's.
I never.
So
really
if it's
thought about
saying
it like
something,
that.
that's the one thing it's saying.
If it's saying something, it's saying the Bush administration's bad. But also Green Day did that, and I think they did it a bit better. So I don't know
But
how
is
many
it
points
specific to the Bush administration or just like?
I think it might just be
I-
pertaining
it-
if
you
to
know,
if
like-
It could
superheroes
just be
are
America
real.
in general. It does
Yeah.
feel like those particular things were most popular in the Bush administration. Like Pray Away the Gay and stuff like that still exists.
It's still pretty
still exists.
popular now.
But I feel like it's peak. Like, you know, those like fucking
Was 10 years
Catholic-
ago, 20,
yeah,
whatever
10
the hell it
like
was.
10 years ago, 15 years ago, I think was like the peak of that shit. Like those Christian conventions with the Pray Away the Gay stuff.
Yeah.
Where like the real peak of anti-Muslim sentiments was definitely post 9/11. So you have like, I can't help but feel like there's like that's intentional, especially when the comic was written during that time. I wonder if maybe that's supposed to be kind of a deconstruction of when the comic was written. I don't know. Maybe they touch on that a bit more in season 2, but I am kind of curious to see how that all goes down.
Well, they never say who the president is. I think that
They
that
haven't
part
touched
doesn't
on
matter.
it,
They
no.
just say that they want it in the government wants.
Homelander's basically the real president.
Well, yeah,
he
when
could
you
be.
have
I mean, he basically is.
Yeah.
because he can literally do anything, but realizes that he can't kill certain people in public.
Yeah, he can only kill some people behind closed doors.
Yeah,
Um,
because he still wants to be. That's what he wants the most is to be loved by his fans.
yeah.
So,
Is it though? Because he kind of shits on his fans when he sees them.
not publicly.
I mean,
Well, when the cameras aren't on, yes.
Yeah,
But when they
like-
are,
Yeah, when the
he's
cameras
like
are
a
on
great
or when there's a
person,
giant
yeah.
crowd, he's not going to
he
be
does
like,
care
fuck
about
you.
his image.
Yeah.
I think Homelander is definitely something we got to look on a little bit more. But we also have a lot of other shows. We have 2 other shows to talk about, and I think one of the most interesting one of the 3.
And probably my favorite one.
Okay, well,
I'd
say.
say.
Okay. I think the most interesting of the 3 is Doom Patrol. It is definitely the weirdest fucking thing I think I've seen on TV. I don't think I've ever seen a show that hits so many bizarre, completely, absolutely batshit insane plot points like this one
Yeah.
does.
Well, Chris, this is your pick, so you want to talk about what
This
the hell
this
it
was
is?
my pick. This was my pick. So so I'll start with a summary. Doom Patrol is a show. Okay, I'll start with a little history. Doom Patrol is what the X-Men were loosely ripping off when they were created. Back in the comics industry, there was a lot of overlap. A lot of times where one studio would be basically just stealing an idea from another one. And Doom Patrol is literally what the X-Men pretty much were loosely getting inspiration from. Down to having a team leader in a wheelchair and having just a bizarre team of misfits. Because that's what it really is. There is
That's really what it is.
yeah.
It's a team of 4 misfits.
It's a team of 4 bizarre misfits with weird,
Well, I was about to say-
non-conventional powers.
No, it's 4 if you don't include Cyborg.
Yeah, well, let's just start with the core 4,
Mm.
and we'll work with Cyborg later because he's actually like a main DC staple at this point.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's in the movie Justice League. He was in Teen Titans, so
Yeah.
most people know
Most
him
people
from
know
Teen
Cyborg.
from
No
Teen
one-
Titans. No
yeah.
one is gonna say they
If
know
I
him
s-
from
Yeah.
Justice League. So
Yeah. I mean, but also if I ask someone, hey, Negative Man, 9 out of 10 people will be like, who the fuck are you
Who the
talking
fuck
about?
is
Yeah,
Negative
no.
Man?
Yeah.
you can't go into the show. You can't recommend the show and go like, oh, it's a superhero show. It's like, oh, who's in it? It's like, yeah, you got nothing for you.
Cyborg?
But it's not really even a superhero
No.
show.
Well,
Well,
that's, yeah. for the
No,
plot.
obviously it's more about the characters, but you can't really. If you want to recommend the show, you say superhero show, and they'll be like, oh, I'm already got the half one in the door.
I feel like that's a mistake because then they come in with a bad. They
Yeah.
kind of come
I
in with a
mean,
misinterpretation of what they're
2
going to
minutes
get.
into the show, they'll find out it's
Not
completely different.
conventional. Yeah.
And the first episode has the whole superhero angle though, with them
Yeah.
fucking up.
I guess.
It's an origin.
but
The first season is an origin for a superhero
It's
show.
I don't know. I mean, the first half of the first episode is definitely an origin story for a superhero episode. But the
it's-
second half is a bit different. But hold on, before we get to that, let me just say the main plot of the show is that this group of misfits, they are led by a man named Niles Calder, and he goes missing, taken away by a man known as Mr. Negative, played by Alan Tudyk.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Mr. Negative, Jesus fucking Christ. Mr. Nobody, played by Alan Tudyk.
It was
eats
your
the
pick.
shit-
You didn't even get that right.
I did absolutely no research, clearly. Played
You
by
didn't even watch the show.
Alan Tudyk, who completely eats the role naturally. And that's pretty much the premise off of it. And they spend the entire season trying to find Niles Calder. And it's fucking weird. And so, like you were saying, the first episode works as an origin story for Robot Man, I'd say. Like, Robot Man being played by Brendan Fraser, who hasn't done anything in a really long time.
He was in a couple of TV shows on Netflix.
Was he?
Uh,
I haven't seen him since 1999's The Mummy. Well, no, that's a lie. I saw him in that movie with the animals where they're trying to stop a
the one from
construction site.
2000. The one from 2011.
furry fight
Vengeance.
furry vengeance. Yeah, there we go.
He was in, besides Doom Patrol, he was in the FX show Trust in 2018, the Showtime show Affair in 2016, and then before that, it was just it was a long pause.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm glad to see he's getting work again. I really like Brendan Fraser, and I'm glad to see that he's getting kind of the spotlight here. Like, for the most part, when I see, well, it should be stated, no one's fucking talking about this show because it was released on the Disney Universe streaming platform as an exclusive.
Wasn't
Which
it DC?
which nobody but me had. No one had DC Universe except for me. I was the single subscriber to that entire fucking
DC
platform.
came out with their own
Yeah.
streaming service.
Yes, if
Yeah.
I didn't read the comics, I wouldn't have cared either. So nobody saw this show. Now it's pushed onto HBO Max. Now it's getting a little bit more publicity. It's getting a third season. It was renewed on HBO Max. So I'm hoping that people actually see and talk about the show and realize that it's.
I'm hoping
it's
a lot
gem.
of people watch this because it's very, very good.
Yeah,
and
it's-
like really complex at the same time.
It's very good, very interesting, and I really want like someone to talk about this show. But when I did it, on the few times that I did see people talk about the show, one of the big One of the big
What was
things that
that?
people talk about was the fact that wow, Brendan Fraser's working again, and I'm happy for that alone.
I mean,
but yeah,
I
so
thought that he played what's it called?
Cliff's Roboman.
Robot
Well,
Man?
granted,
Is
he
it-
only
is it him?
voices it. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
but-
not entirely true. We get to see
Well, no,
him
okay.
act on
Well-
several occasions,
Well, him besides the flashbacks or the
Jane
weird
Patrol.
or the weird
or the Decreator.
whatever you want to call those moments. They're not flashbacks, but I don't know what to call it. So.
Scenes that he acts in.
But
Well,
I do want to
okay,
say
but
that
like that's beside the point.
even though he was only a voice,
Yeah, his voice
like
acting
his
is
voice
good,
acting was very, very good.
as well as him acting as when he wasn't Robot Man, either in a flashback or when they do like the
The weird meta moments, I guess.
meta
kinda.
moments,
Well, like,
the
especially for
mind
Mr.
trick
Nobody.
shit. Like whenever he's actually acting as a human is also great.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally when he acts as the human, that's like it's not only the highlight for Robot Man, it's kind of a highlight for the show, especially in the penultimate episode. But I guess we can get
Yeah.
to that in a bit of a minute.
You think that's the highlight of his acting?
In this show, yeah, especially in the
Not the freakout scene in therapy.
freak out scene is good.
Freak Out scene is very good too.
All right, we'll get to this. This is a bit of a harder show to summarize than The Boys because it's not as simple. Every episode is somewhat self-contained, but they overarchingly are trying to find Niles Calder, and every episode they experience something fucking bizarre. Whether that is a cult that is trying to create a god known as a decreator to destroy the world, which they have to then defeat with their own cults and
They
music.
solve it through Scientology and dancing.
Scientology and dancing
Yeah.
are honestly the keys to any problem in your life. You guys should definitely all dedicate yourselves to them.
This episode
Anyhow.
sponsored by Scientology.
By the Church of Mormon.
Please
yeah.
don't. Just ignore the sponsorship, please.
Please, you're gonna anger the Church of Scientology phase on. We can't.
I
we
think
can't
they
have
already
them
hate
against
us. Let's be honest.
Oh, Chris just died.
it. And I'm gone. We're gonna be replacing me. I do have to say that the villain's fucking great. Like the villain does not have an interesting motivation at all. The villain's motivation is I hate Niles, and I can't get laid, so I'm gonna get revenge on Niles. However, Alan Tudyk is fucking fantastic in this.
Because he
Yeah.
breaks the I mean, his whole, as you said, his whole point is to be a meta.
Yeah, his super character is his super ability. His like superpower is purely the ability to be meta, to like look at the audience and be like, "This is a dumb fucking show. No one's watching this show. Look at the white space. That's this show's viewership. There's
Yep.
nobody here. This is gonna be watched by that one asshole, me, who fucking subscribed to the streaming service." And
which was literally just you.
it was just me, and then someone split it with me so that I didn't have to
It-
pay all at once.
So it was like, what, half person?
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I
Like
kind of
it didn't even count.
Yeah,
like,
the servers were so goddamn empty. But yeah, like I really like that. Like we've never really seen a meta supervillain in like modern superhero TV and movies.
yeah, it's normally like the cliche like supervillain, you know?
Yeah, like the big CGI man,
Yeah,
man.
like-
Instead, we have small CGI man
Who
who
looks amazing.
who
But
looks
who-
amazing,
Who
and
also has a lot more to him than just wanting to like take over the world or like.
yeah, he
you
he
know.
wants to make Niles hurt. He really wants to hurt him, and he does it in these really interesting ways. Like even from the very beginning, he clearly decides he wants to handle this situation in the most bizarre way possible. His first main attack on Niles Calder is to send in a donkey, and then to use that donkey to destroy a town and kidnap Niles.
And the donkey is also like a pocket dimension.
The donkey is a pocket dimension, and then the moment that the Doom Patrol tries to go into the pocket dimension, he just makes them fucking suffer by showing
Yep.
them their greatest fears and their greatest failures and just throwing it in their faces. and then just kicking them out and telling them to stop looking for Niles Calder. And he does that anytime they get too close. Anytime they get too close, he like his super weapon is their depression. His super weapon is like, hey, you remember that thing you did 5 years ago that was really fucked up and you caused someone to kill themselves? Yeah,
let's think about that for a little bit.
I'm gonna remind you about that.
Hey, Cyborg, you remember how you killed your mom?
Yeah.
And why don't we remember that?
I think the way he tortures Cyborg, I think ends up being the most interesting in the whole show because he tortures everybody.
Yeah.
But I think the way he tortures Cyborg is the most interesting and the most fucked because he basically implants the idea, hey Cyborg, since you're half robot, can you really trust your memories to be real?
Yeah.
Or
Are your memories real or are these all programmed? Like your dad is like that high school athlete parent.
Yeah.
Super overbearing and is like you need to do this, this, and this, or else you're not
really
gonna make it.
Sus and part of this bizarre government organization that kidnaps weird people.
Yep.
So your dad's really sus. Maybe he's faking it. Maybe your memories aren't real. Then he starts implanting fake memories into his head, and then he basically just keep pushing him to that breaking point that Cyborg beats the shit out of his dad and nearly murders him.
Well, granted, that was also part of Nobody.
That was all Nobody. But
nobody. But Cyborg had the suspicion of his dad.
That was implanted by Nobody. Nobody was
not
the first,
all of it.
Yeah, in the beginning, he implants it when he's in the donkey.
No. Even before that, he still had suspicion of his dad.
That was when he was in the donkey.
Him not trusting his dad was not all from the donkey.
Most of it was from.
He didn't get him and his dad had a strange relationship, which they do in pretty much every.
That's what I mean. But
you
can't put. I wouldn't. Obviously, nobody continually pushed him. But I'm saying the idea
that
he
didn't think that his dad altered his memories until he.
No, not that. I'm talking about just him.
Their relationship.
Yeah,
I think that the thing is he had that suspicion about his dad in the back of his mind over something.
And then nobody
kept pushing that button.
Until he really snapped.
Yeah.
Once, I think that was probably one of the most emotionally intense scenes of the show is when Cyborg is just punching his dad.
I feel like each character has one of those moments.
Every character has a incredible low and an incredible high. Obviously, I don't think Cyborg has a high yet, but I think he's gonna get one in season 2. Because I don't think I can't think of him having if you look at
what was Rita's high.
I would probably say the Doom Patrol episode.
Yep.
Where she puts the hat back on Memento. Which it's a whole other fucking thing to get to. So as this group of bizarre characters goes and tries to find their chief, they see a lot of weird shit. They see hive mind Nazis. They see animal, mineral, vegetable, dinosaur man.
Mineral, vegetable, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. That's not his accurate name. I always
something
forget
like that.
Animal,
mineral, vegetable. I think there's a fourth.
Is there a dinosaur in there?
No, I don't think dinosaur.
I don't think dinosaur's in the name.
He just has a dinosaur head.
Until he beats him.
A second-door raptor
head.
head.
Until he eats him, yeah. They meet Danny the Street, a genderqueer teleporting, completely sentient street, who is fucking great.
He's awesome, by the way.
I fucking love Danny the Street. Danny the Street's
somehow doesn't
great.
say an actual word, just
he just speaks
prints stuff out.
Yeah,
and it's great. I loved him.
Danny truly, when I first watched the show, because I watched it when it was releasing, and then I rewatched it now for this. Danny the Street was definitely a highlight for me. It's just such a unique concept. Not even in comics. It's just unique. Who the fuck thought that up? I know who the fuck thought that up. Grant Morrison's an actual
I feel like
person.
that's the whole thing about this show, though, right? It's unique.
It's incredibly unique.
There's nothing really about this show that's cookie cutter superheroes.
Yeah, absolutely not. Even the moments that you feel are kind of almost cookie cutter superheroes are actually not. When the moment a big reveal happens, let's say, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So I think this would be a good time to talk about our favorite episodes of the show, because I think that's the easiest way to break down parts of this show.
It's really hard
too much to talk about.
It's very very dense.
Yeah.
We can just talk about the one we don't like.
Oh God.
I guess we can talk about the one.
Yeah, let's start with the one we don't like. Start with a low point and build our way.
Yeah.
Up. The Beard Patrol episode.
Beard Patrol is my least favorite.
It is also my least favorite.
It's also not a bad episode. It's just disliked because it's gross.
Yeah, there's a man called the Beard Hunter who has the incredibly dangerous superpower.
This is episode 10, by the way.
Thank you. Episode 10. He can track anybody in the world as long as he eats a little bit of their beard. And
I like how it couldn't be anything else.
Couldn't be any. It's
No,
absolutely disgusting.
but I mean, it has to be the beard. Hair won't do shit.
Nope, beard has to be the beard. He seems to get a.
So wait, how did he know all that hair in the sink?
He didn't know all of it was beard. He just took,
some of it was.
Some of it had to have been beard, was his bet. he gets a orgasmic level of pleasure from it.
Yeah, which
and
is
it's
so uncomfortable.
fucking uncomfortable.
They zoom
At-
in
yeah.
so close.
At
to
one
his
point,
face.
he fishes a bunch of just a glop of hair from the Doom Patrol sink in order to get a bit of Niles Calder's to try and hunt him down, and it is grotesque. It's absolutely grotesque. I mean, there's this one scene where like Cyborg's talking to him, and he's just eyeing his fucking
just
little,
eyeing
his little
the-
chin.
and
his
it's-
little
He's
and
waiting for
Cyborg-
that little hair to
He
fall
wants
off.
it to fall off so he can
and
just lick it
Cyborg
off
just
the
says,
floor.
"Back your
It's
ass up,"
sick
for obvious
fuck.
reasons.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And even though like the other half of that episode is not bad, like because there's a B plot and the B plot is not bad, that A plot is so grotesque that I genuinely it does I never want to see that episode again.
But I do think that like it was there for a break because
yeah,
that episode before was heavy.
Because
mean-
that takes place during that episode.
They take place. This takes place
Yeah,
before one of the best episodes of the show, which we'll talk about in a bit. And it really takes place after a string of like damn good episodes.
Yeah.
Like I think 6 through 9 is just a fucking perfect run of really really good shit.
I agree. 6 through 9 were all very,
So I mean,
very good.
you know, the crash had to happen eventually. Plus, I will say the B plot, it's a
The
flashback.
the B plot was actually like
Yeah, it's
interesting.
Tyler told me when he was watching, he's like, "Oh, it's filler." I told him it wasn't, and I couldn't explain why. But as to you guys, I
it
can.
felt like filler.
It feels like filler.
because it
kind of-
takes place at the same time as Jane Patrol, which is a really dense episode where you go into Jane's head and all that.
Yeah.
So going outside of it and be like, "Oh, what happened with these guys?" It's like, it feels kind of filler, but obviously it pays off.
Yeah, I mean, the important part of it ends up really being that we see Niles Calder back in the day, before he was paralyzed and everything, and we see him as a member of a group that would later become to be known as the Bureau of Normalcy.
Yep.
And he is trying to find this weird goings-on happening in, I think it was like the Yucatan or something. And what he ends up finding is this ape-like woman, seemingly kind of like a Neanderthal type of woman out there with bizarre psychic abilities.
Yeah.
They end up falling in love, maybe? I don't really know how much he cares about her, but they end up having a
end up
kid.
falling in love.
Enough.
Enough. They end up having a kid who he hides on Danny the Street and will become an important plot point, I believe, in season 2. And she's very interesting in the comics. I don't think she was Niles' kid in the comics, though. So I don't know.
Who was she?
I think she was just a weird kid. I can't remember. Her
That-
name was Dorothy.
That was related to the woman.
I didn't finish reading the Grant Morrison Doom Patrol run. I'm sorry. I only read like maybe 30 issues, so I can't.
I mean, this might also just be a way they adapted.
Yeah,
the
I know it
character
definitely
into
could be.
the
I mean,
story.
they do change
Like,
things up here
yeah.
a lot, but they are very reverential to reverential.
Referential.
No, that's not the one. That's not the one I want. We'll
That's-
figure it
that
out.
Sounds exactly.
Referential? Is that not the
Like to
word
be
you wanted?
reverent to something, not reference.
Oh.
What the
to
fuck
be
does
reverent.
reverent
To
mean?
be to. Listen, this isn't a fucking grammar podcast, all right?
You have a computer in front of you.
I'm not gonna goddamn use it. The point is that they definitely care about how they adapt the Grant Morrison run,
Yep.
and they do it in really unique and interesting ways, and they do it very well. Danny the Street, the D Creator, they really get all these big concepts. Mr. Nobody, they get all these like really hard to translate concepts that feel like they should only work in the printed page or that they should never hit mainstream, and they do them really well. And even the way that they adapt a previous iteration of the Doom Patrol team, they do that very well here as well, which is one of the best episodes. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's damn close.
Yeah,
to being up
I wouldn't
there.
say it's my favorite, but it's definitely up there.
Yeah, the
Where-
Doom Patrol.
It's definitely in the better half of the season.
I think it's in the top. Four
I'd
at
say like
least.
top 4, top 5.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, the show has
Like
some really good
maybe
episodes.
like third best. It's hard.
It's
Because
hard.
there are some very, very good episodes. But the thing I liked about old what's it called? Doom Patrol is that like they didn't sugarcoat it.
No, not at all. Yeah, they did that very well. They
And it really showed like what happens when heroes fail.
yeah,
Have we ever seen that anywhere?
not
I
to this
mean-
degree. You can make the argument for Endgame.
I was gonna say the ending of Infinity War,
but
they
not.
failed.
Yeah, I mean,
But they came back and won. You know.
yeah.
Well,
this
yes.
is a more realistic, tragic take to it, and
And
I think
it shows how like powerful Mr. Nobody actually is.
yeah,
Yep.
it really does.
And
that
how
very
like
well.
his preying on people's like deepest darkest thoughts actually breaks them.
Yeah, I think it does that really well. It also does a great job at putting more suspicion on Niles Calder.
Yep.
Like throughout the whole show, there's a bizarre level of suspicion to him. Even in the very beginning, he talks about the Doom Patrol in a very possessive way. But that's so easy to brush off. It's very easy to just fall out. But once you see this and you see that there had been a previous iteration of the Doom Patrol team who had worked with Niles Calder to fight against Mr. Nobody, and they now live effectively in a elderly home for the three of them, where
That's
they
putting
are.
it lightly. That house is a
yeah.
shithole.
Yeah, that's putting it very
It's
lightly.
a
Calling it
broken
an
down-
elderly home.
It's a
is-
rundown. It's a rundown.
It's a
elderly
very
home.
rundown house. They now live in this broken down shithole of an elderly home where they live out their fantasies. They live out these psychic fantasies that nothing that they didn't lose, that they actually won against Mr. Nobody, and they're actually running a school for like gifted youngsters, very
Yeah.
X-Men style. But in reality, they're old, they're decrepit, they're broken mentally
They're all
and
just like
physically.
tied to bed.
Yeah.
Like
They're just given their medicine every day, but in their heads, they're doing publicity shoots because they can't let people forget what the Doomsday Clock was all. The Doom Patrol was all about. Doomsday
Yeah.
Clock's for the next show. I think that was great. I mean,
it was one of the harder hitting episodes.
truly was. It's one of the episodes where, especially at first, you don't realize the twist that's gonna happen. A lot of shows, especially like with The Boys, the twists can. We actually didn't talk about a major thing. That's fine. The twists can be very.
Oh, what part?
The finale. For The Boys, the twists can be very obvious. You
Yeah.
see them coming the entire series away. It's painfully obvious, and yet here, even the twist it is presented and then given out in one episode, you don't realize it's about to happen. You see this older iteration of the Doom Patrol team, and you don't think off the top of your head,
No.
oh, of course
There's
they're decrepit, they're old, and they're
There's
living in a
no
mental
way I
institution.
thought that was gonna happen.
No way. So, like even when oh my god, what's the name? The girl who has the powers over ice and fire.
I don't remember
I
any
don't
of it.
remember
Besides
any of their
Miss.
names. Okay.
No, what's his
It's
name?
an Indian
Memento.
name though.
Okay,
Yeah, besides
well,
Memento, I don't remember.
I can't remember her name right now. She was part of the run before Grant Morrison, but she says, "Oh, I'm Niles Calder's wife." The moment they said that, I remember being caught
Yeah, it's just
so
like,
off guard. Like, whoa, what a twist!
No,
Little
but
did I fucking
I knew
know.
something was fucked up because the
It kept
the
flashing.
illusion kept flashing.
Yeah. I thought that was probably just Mr. Nobody doing something. I did not.
I
Think
thought it was
that
just some superpower and that like some kid in the house was just
fucking with it.
Yeah.
I thought it was Mr. Nobody. I did not think that this was entirely the entire premise of this house was an illusion put together by one of the Doom Patrol members in order to
Yeah.
basically keep everybody stable and sane and in one piece.
Can we also talk about the fact that Niles Calder had a room for Jane here?
Yeah, Niles Calder had a room for Jane in any case that he may not be able to keep her together.
which granted she continually runs away anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, chances
But,
are, if he was gonna put her here, he was
she
probably
was
gonna
gonna
sedate
stay.
her.
Oh, yeah.
he was probably gonna sedate her like,
but like
the rest
she,
of the Doom Patrol.
she would
sedated.
definitely stay because it's like she's basically an illusion.
Yeah,
She would be forced.
That's
Yeah,
like
she's forced to stay
everything
there.
that she wanted.
yeah,
Yeah.
So there'd be no reason for her to ever leave, which is
this
why these
was-
people don't.
yeah. This was Niles's backup plan for Jane because Jane is probably the most dangerous of the main Doom Patrol crew. Like,
I agree.
Because
I'm
there's
fairly certain-
64
Because she
of
has
her.
64
different powers,
personalities.
64 personalities, each with their different powers. And that
some
is-
more useful than others.
some more useful than others. And I have to assume there's going to be some in there that are dumb levels of broken that are going to become problematic going forward.
Yeah, I agree.
That it only makes sense. Actually, I think this actually might be a good time to talk about the Doom Patrol because we kind of
Well,
glanced over.
can we
who
can we
they
talk
are.
about this? Actually, yeah. Let's talk about Doom Patrol first, I guess.
Let's just talk about each member. Cliff Steele, also known as Robot Man, ex-race car driver, cheated on his wife repeatedly. Total piece of shit. He ends up recuperating with his wife, but ultimately gets into a car accident, causes the death of his wife, and he thinks his daughter, and gets his head cut off. Niles Calder finds him, puts his brain into a robot, creates Robot Man.
Yep.
Number 2, I guess we do. I think my favorite character in the show, Larry Trainer,
Is
aka
Larry
Negative
Trainer,
Man.
Yeah.
aka
Easily
Negative Man.
my favorite character in the whole fucking show. I love Larry.
He's what, a pilot?
Yeah, he's a military pilot back in the 1950s. He goes
Secretly gay,
secretly gay. He's
but
closeted-
also married with a kid.
married with a kid, secretly gay, and he's flying an experimental fighter jet, which he unintentionally runs through a space anomaly, which bonds him to an electromagnetic being, which lives inside him and causes him to be extremely radioactive, giving cancer to pretty much everybody that he's around.
but also makes
Yep.
him live because the plane
Yeah.
crashed.
It also makes him pretty much immortal.
also just
He can't really
covered
die as
in-
long as he has
yeah.
it inside him.
Yeah.
But it's a painful experience for both of them.
Yeah.
It's a half life they both have to live together. A third member would be Rita Farr,
Rita Farr.
who is a 1930s
30s
40s?
actress.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's golden age
actress.
of Hollywood actress
Mm.
who was
a piece of shit.
real piece of
A
shit,
real
piece of
bitch.
shit. She says it herself. I was a monster long before the accident. She was a real piece of shit, and she stumbles upon a magic rock in a river. We don't really know about that one.
It's
much.
similar to Larry's thing,
Yeah.
whatever the being is, but she falls in a river, gets stuck with this thing that makes her like
what
a
are her
blob.
powers actually?
In
She
the
can stretch.
Yeah, it's like
When she
Is it supposed to be
control-
like Elastigirl?
kind
when
of like
she controls
Elastigirl,
it,
yeah.
yes.
In the original comics, it was very Elastigirly, but she doesn't have full control over it, so she
Okay.
kind of
which just
melts.
blobs it, yeah.
Yeah, so it gets very blobby.
Yeah, which I think is just probably because she was trying to suppress this for so long.
Yeah, pretty
Mm.
much is. I mean, all of their punishments, you could almost call them, are ironic. You have someone like Cliff who is like super, sex and women and all this shit. And now he can't feel a damn thing because he's a robot. You have someone like Cliff. Again. Someone like Larry who has like huge internalized homophobia, and now he has a literal internalized monster he can't understand. That's not
Yeah.
actually a monster, but he just can't understand it and he can't make peace with it. You have someone like Rita Farr who was obsessed with this golden age of Hollywood and this
And she was
perfectionism.
obsessed with
Of
her
her
image
image.
as a
Yeah,
person.
her image. Yeah,
like
this perfectionism,
beauty's
exactly.
looks, like
And now she can't. You literally cannot hold herself together.
Yeah.
So that's the core three, and then we have.
I mean,
like,
we have a four. Jane
Jane. Yeah, well, that's what I said. The core three, and then Jane comes in a little bit later.
comes in
as,
like the second episode.
No,
I
she
think it's
comes in
the end of
first.
the first. Yeah,
She comes halfway through the
half
first.
of
Yeah, it
the
is
first,
actually.
yeah.
It is the first. Yeah.
Jane having 64 different personalities, all of which came from a traumatic event in her childhood, which we'll get to in a
A
minute.
lot of traumatic events. That is.
And then each of those 64 powers were then given each of those 64 personalities were then given a superpower, of varying degrees of strangeness.
Of usefulness.
Yeah. And then our fifth member
Is Cyborg.
who I don't really think needs too much introduction. He was
Teen
in a horrible
Titans.
accident. Yeah, Teen Titans, great show. He was in a horrible accident when he was younger. His father put him back together, but the accident simultaneously caused the death of his mother, and his father could only save one of them. And he ultimately chose to save his son, on realizing that that's what his mother would want, with a little bit of pushing from Niles Calder.
Speaking of Niles.
I have a question about this, right?
Yes.
So when that accident happened,
Yeah.
Cyborg's dad worked on Cyborg, right?
Yes.
Was it Niles that worked on?
I
the
think
mom?
Niles also worked on Cyborg. No, I think Niles pretty much also worked on Cyborg, and
No. Did Niles mainly work on the mom, or?
well,
No,
Niles
no,
was
he-
friends with her. He didn't work on the mom at all.
Okay. Never
Yeah,
mind.
He was just friends with the mom from back in the day. And I guess this brings us to the final member of the Doom Patrol, Niles Calder. And Niles Calder, he's gone for most of the show, so for a lot of it, we don't really get a lot of information on him until the very end, where we learn that Niles Calder has been responsible for every accident which has befallen the members of the Doom Patrol. He created them. They are
Yep.
his Doom Patrol because he created them to be this way in his attempt to study immortality. He wanted to become immortal so that he could always be there
for his daughter,
for his daughter, who is immensely dangerous and powerful.
which he put 4 people through, or I mean maybe 5.
Maybe.
I don't know about Cyborg.
He pushed Silas to save Cyborg and not his wife.
Yeah, but he
So-
pushed 4 people through, the
Torment.
most fucked up shit of all time.
Yeah, incredible.
Just so he
torment.
could be like a good dad, which is
not
okay.
No.
It's super fucked. It's super fucked. Like
he's the dad that's there too much.
he ruined 4 people's lives. Like Larry Traynor did not have to have any of this happen to him.
No.
Rita did
No.
not. Like none of these people needed to have any of this happen. Like he says, I can't believe this happened to Cliff. The accident was supposed to be on the racetrack. No one else was supposed to.
Yeah,
die.
that's
he
when
killed
he-
Cliff's wife.
That's when That's when he felt regret. It's like, oh, I'm still doing this for science. When he did that to Larry, when he did it to
Rita.
I guess-
I still don't get it. They didn't explain how the hell they did that to
We
Rita.
didn't explain Rita, but we know that he was at least related to it to some degree.
But yeah,
the
no, out
most
of
fucked up
everybody,
part about this though is that he would have never told them
no.
No, never.
until Mr. Nobody forced him to.
Yeah, he would have kept this lie going pretty much forever. But Niles Calder is not a good person. He's not the person you go into the show thinking he is at all. He's not this guy who created this home for these people.
But the show
He's the guy
never
who
makes you
created these
feel
people.
like he's.
I think in the first episode they do. They definitely portray him as this helper.
As
this-
I feel
Professor
like
X.
even
Yeah,
even
You
Professor X.
immediately think of Professor X, even
Yeah.
though he came first.
but even in the second episode, for me personally, like I started to feel some suspicions about him
Yeah.
as
I
a
mean,
character.
there are definitely. I can't remember the first time I watched it when I began to feel suspicious, but there are definitely moments looking back on it, even in the first episode, that are very suspicious.
Yeah.
But I do feel like they portray him first as a helper, this guy who creates this home for these people, and not this guy who creates these people and breaks them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is the Doom Patrol. They are a broken gang of superheroes who basically spend the whole show trying to push past their trauma, and this comes to a head in Penultimate Patrol.
Yeah.
Which damn well might be the best episode in the whole show.
It's tough for me.
It's tough.
second best maybe.
Mm.
It's tough. I really like Penultimate Patrol because basically they arrive at the white space where Mr. Nobody lives and has captured Niles Calder.
Well, they
And-
get there because of Flux, and who we have not mentioned yet.
Which I don't know if we have time to mention. Looking at the
Yeah, I
clock,
don't think we have
he
time to
flexes
mention.
muscles in his body and creates things.
Or accidentally makes things come.
Or he
May-
makes a group come
Yeah,
session.
he might make. Yeah, there.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's flex. That's pretty much as much character as he's gotten in the show. His wife died. So they go to the white space, and basically Mr. Nobody puts everybody in a little personalized heaven, right?
Yep.
Or possibly even sends them straight back in time.
Yep.
Because he's shown he's able to do that through the concept of flashbacks. So he gives everybody a kind of a personal heaven where they have not yet turned into a monster. And that if they basically stay in the room where he put them,
They'll have this life forever.
they'll have this life
What they
exactly
wanted.
the way they wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cliff won't become Robot Man. Larry Trainer will be able to stay with his wife and kids and his lover. Which, oh god, there's so much to talk about with that. That's so
Yeah.
good.
What, Larry?
Yeah, with Larry. There's so much to talk about.
I mean,
with Larry.
he
We didn't even
gets-
get to mention Moon River's usage.
He
God.
gets two of the best song moments in the whole show.
Yeah,
With the ending.
I mean, we
of-
could talk about the show forever.
we
Let's
could
be
generally
honest.
Yeah.
talk about the show forever.
There-
But basically,
there's too much.
yeah, everybody gets to be put in a almost heaven-like place for themselves, and they have to say, if you stay here, you can have it all. But if you get out of here, you lose it all. But you guys can keep chasing after Niles. And all of them ultimately reject it. All of them decide that
Because
fuck it.
they feel like they owe Niles something.
Well, it's not even that because they do. I think at that point is that the point? They don't know.
No,
yet.
they don't know yet. They
by
find
that
out
point.
after they get out.
But I think it has less to do with Niles and more to do with them because they've spent so much time getting through their
I
bullshit
agree,
that
but-
just ignoring it and dropping it off the map for the sake of being like, I just don't want it to happen to me in the first place. They've had to live through it. They've already worked through it, and they're
Yeah,
better
but-
for it.
I do think that Niles plays a major part in them wanting to get out. Because their whole journey throughout the show was them trying to save Niles.
But it ultimately ends up being them saving themselves.
yeah,
They push
But do they
themselves
know
through
that?
this. I think they do by the end. At least Rita does.
Yeah.
By minimum, Rita does. And
Right, wait, she gets to what?
And the bare minimum, Rita knows that she has saved herself here by changing as a person.
Well, yes, she does, but above all, I think she gets the least.
I disagree. I think she actually gets the second most to go through in terms of change.
No. I was gonna say that. I was gonna say not screen time, but like most amount of, like, we get a lot of attention on Larry, Cliff, everybody. I feel like she gets the least attention, but she does go through stuff.
I think I would say she maybe gets the least attention, but she definitely goes through the most. And in terms of characters going through things, I feel like this is a pretty good time to talk about the most dense show on the entire podcast.
Because if not, we would have talked for Doom Patrol
And
for 6 more hours.
I realized we could probably have made a whole episode on Doom Patrol, which is
Yeah.
Yeah.
But next is
next
Faison.
is-
I feel like since you
this
didn't
is,
get a
yeah, this
chance.
was kind of I guess in a weird way Faison's pick.
I mean, it was a group pick.
Yeah, it was a group pick.
90% of our picks
Let's
are
be
group
honest.
picks.
No, this one was a
pick.
true group pick.
Oh,
we,
well,
we'd
yeah,
already
yeah.
all seen this one when it was airing. And that is to say 2019's Watchmen by David Lindelof. That's his name.
It's not Lynch.
I said Lindelof.
It's Damien.
That was close.
Close enough.
Yeah, the D man, that doesn't work.
Okay.
So this is a much harder show to summarize. So actually, let me summarize
This
the
show
original Watchmen.
has a
comic.
lot to unpack.
Well, you want to do the backstory?
I've read the comic,
Faison got
and then Faison
the.
can do this show.
Yeah, go
which-
for it.
Good luck.
I'm not going to be able to see.
Good
I can't
luck,
even
Faison.
summarize the show.
Well,
How do you summarize the show?
It'll
Start it
be
off.
interesting. So
Start it.
it's a sequel to the 1970s, 1980s Alan Moore Watchmen comic. I don't know. I remember the actual year it came out. And in that comic, humanity is spiraling towards its own self-destruction in the midst of the Cold War. The U.S. and Russia are on the verge of blowing the absolute loving shit out of each other, and the doomsday clock has been moved 1 minute to midnight. As this is all happening, this is a world where a superhero team does exist, a team known as the Watchmen.
They have no
And
powers.
They have mostly no powers, but they are kind of more of a masked group of vigilantes. The problem there being that one of the members of the group, known as Ozymandias, has decided that it is up to him to save the world from its own nuclear Armageddon. And he's going to do this by killing millions of people with a massive psychic squid and using that as an excuse to have both the US and Russia work together against a common enemy, thus preventing a Cold War. Killing millions to save billions is pretty much how he puts it. At the same time, another important member of the original Watchmen is a character known as Dr. Manhattan, the only character who has any real superpowers, and he is functionally God. He's omnipotent, and he can see everything at any given point. He experiences all time unilaterally. He is seemingly indestructible, seemingly undefeatable, and he's basically true neutral. He has no morality. However, I think it's very interesting. He is capable of experiencing change throughout the series. As he does, his opinions change. It's interesting. He's an omnipotent character capable of change, which is a really unique
weird.
concept in its own right. Yeah, but basically, the Watchmen comic ends with Ozymandias' plan succeeding. He killed 3 million people in New York and psychically scarred millions of more, all to prevent the end of the world. And the show picks up 40 years after that, I want to say. It picks up in 2019, 2020.
It picks up in modern day.
Yeah, so let's say about 40 years after the comic.
I mean, it begins in 1920.
Okay, but you know what I mean. It really the plot takes place in 2019.
Yeah,
And
it starts off with a flashback, which was probably one of the greatest, like a really, really good scene. It was a great way to start the show.
Because nobody thought, because everyone most of the people watching it's like, oh, this is a messed up thing they just did for the show, and then you look online, it's like, oh shit, this happened, and nobody heard about it.
So congratulations, Faison. This is where you try to summarize Watchmen.
It's impossible to do it. It's literally impossible to do.
It is the most dense show on TV. That's the summary. Summary: racism and blue penis. There's your fucking summary of Watchmen. That's all I can give to you.
Is that the episode title?
Yeah,
might be.
racism and blue penis. Oh no, that's gonna get demonetized real quick. As if we're getting monetized. Yeah, it is insanely dense. God, how do you even? Okay, this doesn't have to be a collective description. There's a lot of
It's obviously a continuation.
Yeah, it's a continuation of the
86 comic.
86. Okay, that's when it come out.
Yeah, it's a continuation of that in which you see how the world was, and it focuses on. It's really relevant today because it focuses on police. It focuses on the race relations and how police work.
Yeah, it's a very even though it came out before everything that happened with George Floyd earlier this year.
Didn't matter because shit happened like that for 6 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. Shit happened like that for this year, but it finds itself being even more topical now than ever before.
Somehow.
Yeah,
which is actually
it's
really
very
impressive to think about.
Like, so this is the show that I said ultimately disappointed me. And I've been
that's because of the ending.
That's because of the ending. Yeah,
But
ultimately the ending disappointed me. However,
even
with the ending, let me say one thing. Even with the ending, it never is the fault of the writing. The writing in this show is fucking impeccable. Even down to little single pieces of dialogue in the episodes that I like the least, there are pieces of dialogue that are absolutely fantastic.
Because Damien's whole thing, Damien works the best when he's focusing on characters.
Yeah.
His past show, Leftovers, is still his best show and might just be the best show I've ever seen because of his character work. And that wraps up his whole thing is characterizations, and he does it so well with the episode dedicated to Looking Glass, the one dedicated to Roy. Hooded Justice episode is a masterpiece.
Yeah, Hooded Justice episode I think is the best of the whole show. It's interesting. His character work is great. He handles characters so well, especially when characterizing them and giving them that initial stance. I think we can honestly just start with talking about some of the characters. Lori, I think, is actually the one I want to talk about first. She was a character in the original Watchmen comic. She was a superhero named Silk Spectre.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, Silk Spectre 2, technically. Mm-hmm. She was the second iteration of that character. And I think most interesting about her is that when they portray her in the show, she is more similar to her father than her mother.
And her father was?
The comedian, a rapist, a psychopath, and a murderer. And she literally takes the name The Comedian, but she spells it in the
female version.
The female version. It's very, it's very interesting that's, I think it's actually a perfect way to have her character grow as kind of closer to her father than her mother.
Yep.
It's just a very interesting thing to get to actually see, because I don't think it was something I would have ever thought about off of reading just the comic. As for other important characters, Angela Abar is the granddaughter of 2 Tulsa massacre survivors. She is a thermodynamic miracle. This is actually a pretty interesting way to put it. I'll get to that in a minute, hopefully. She is pretty much the focal point of the show. The show is mostly experienced through her eyes and her relationship with the other characters like Dr. Manhattan or Will Reeves, or Lori or Looking Glass and all these other characters who are really interesting.
Or Cal.
Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah,
technically. Or you can make the argument they're different at that point.
They're pretty different.
They're different based on what they did to him. Yeah.
Yeah. As for other characters, there's also Looking Glass, who is he was an Oklahoma pasture boy who went to Hoboken during the time of the attack and ended up being mentally or psychically scarred by the giant
by
alien
just walking out of
by what any normal person would feel like after seeing fucking giant squids fall from the sky.
Yeah, well, imagine
billions
the
of people die.
ramifications of that. I mean,
he's a paranoid. Not schizophrenic. He's a paranoid.
But anybody would be.
Anybody would be
after experiencing something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
something that you literally can't explain.
Oh yeah,
he's painfully paranoid.
which
He's
is why
literally-
his whole
mask
thing is tinfoil. No, not tinfoil.
Well, it's tinfoil. His mask literally is made of fictional tinfoil to keep out psychic radiation from affecting his brain,
Yeah.
and that's what he uses to sleep best at night because he is absolutely terrified of another alien attack like that. Even though that actual attack was again perpetrated by a superhero Ozymandias to make peace.
Who is in the show and
Who
his
is
whole
in the show?
his whole storyline is great because you have no idea what the hell he's doing.
You also have no idea where the fuck he is.
And like learning about it is really fun because his whole scene is just him. At first, you just see him in a castle doing whatever he wants, and then he starts killing his servants. But then
you
they
kind of
come
just
back.
assume he's like living a retired life somewhere
Yeah.
out in the countryside. Like he's just fucking crazy. Like he's a crazy like person.
Yeah,
just doing literally whatever
he's
he
doing some
wants.
crazy shit, whatever the fuck he wants.
But then you
It's
realize that he's getting bored because he's the
actually just
smartest
stuck
man ever,
there.
and he's just and then
Like
he
somebody
realizes he's stuck
trapped
there.
him.
Yeah,
yeah. The use of Ozymandias in the show is really interesting, especially towards the end when he leaves his prison. It's really kind of a prison.
it's a
It's
prison.
one part prison because he asked to
Well,
be
it
sent there.
it turns into a
It turns
prison.
into a prison.
Yeah.
He's actually been sent by Dr. Manhattan to the moon of Jupiter, Europa, and been given a paradise to live in. But he's grown completely bored of it, and he wants to get the fuck out. So he's trying to escape. And in order to make his escape entertaining, he turns one of the people that he creates there into his own personal villain, the warden,
Yep.
to try and keep him in there because he just wants a challenge. And as the warden is dying, he asks, "Was I a good adversary?" And Ozymandias says, "No, but you put on a hell of a show." And
Can we
it is
talk about
so
how
fucked?
how he created all those people?
Yeah,
The fucking lake
yeah.
where you
He
reaches down,
pull
like,
out the
picks out a
fetus?
fetus. Never
Not
mind.
he's not
Toss it
ripe
back
enough.
in there.
No, this one's not ripe yet. And let's just talk about how many people he killed that he was able to write out "Save me, daughter" on the moon of Europa.
Which is a
Yeah.
Black Friday reference
Is it? Oh yeah.
because he uses bodies to send a message instead of building a ship out of bodies. So
Okay, you're right. That is pretty interesting. Okay, that is a Black Freighter reference. Black Freighter being a mini comic that ran inside
the
the
comic.
Watchmen comic. Again, very dense, very fucking dense. So let's talk about probably the best episode of the show, and I think the time where the show feels like it's most focused, the Hooded Justice episode.
yes,
Yeah.
This is, in my opinion, fucking masterclass television. I really off the top of my head, there's nothing I can think about that I've seen on TV that beats this episode individually. This episode,
I don't think there is.
I can't think there is. I don't know. Tyler's seen The Leftovers, made by the same guy, so maybe you have something.
The
we don't.
Leftovers has a. Oh, I didn't mention this in regarding to Doom Patrol, but this fits now. There's an episode in Leftovers that is very similar to the Jane Patrol episode
Oh,
because they do.
well,
a very-
ironically, we didn't actually get to talk about Doom Patrol at all.
barely.
Yeah.
But no, there's a very similar episode in regarding a well and regarding like a mind, some type of shit like that.
Okay, so would you say that episode was better than Will Reeves?
That episode is up there as one of the best episodes.
Okay.
And then of course there's fucking Ozymandias.
Yeah. Okay.
The,
I think
the
what-
episode, not the.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. The episode
What made
of
the
Breaking
Hooded
Bad.
Justice episode so good?
But I still think this actually beats out Ozymandias for me.
Yeah, what made the Hooded Justice episode so good is that they didn't just like throw it into a flashback.
No, they did it in the most interesting narrative way possible. Like, so for context, there is a drug known as nostalgia in the Watchmen universe where people can take this pill.
Which is actually referenced in the comic too.
It is, but I think in the comic, is it a pill or is it a perfume?
It's a perfume.
It's a perfume, yeah. But you can take this pill, and if you do, you can relive a memory of yours. But you're never supposed to take somebody else's nostalgia.
Yep.
Angela Abar, our main character, takes her
whole
a
damn
whole
bottle.
fucking pill of her grandfather's nostalgia.
While
and-
she's also in jail.
Yeah, while she's getting arrested for covering up
What they think
someone's
is a
murder.
Yeah.
She takes a shit ton of these pills and she begins pretty much experiencing his entire life story, and it's fucking brilliant. And
It
on
is.
top of that, one thing I've been wanting to say for a while. This episode pretty much perfectly encapsulates how Dr. Manhattan sees things. Dr. Manhattan's big shtick in this show is that I experience all of time simultaneously.
Yep.
Everything happens for me all at once. There is no now, there is no then, there is no in the future. Everything happens to me immediately. And this episode is, I think, one of the only ways I can ever think to have that visually displayed. As
Yeah.
Angela, sometimes we'll have Angela walk out of a building. It'll flip between her and it'll flip between Will Reeves at the same time about who's experiencing it. You could see maybe
Also, the fact that the whole episode's black and white, isn't it?
the whole episode's black and white,
Yeah.
except for the
Yeah.
scenes with Angela coming out of it
No, it's still black and white.
at the very end.
Okay, well that's out.
Yeah, so-
okay, out of it. Yeah,
Not the whole episode, Tyler.
yeah. Alright, fuck you.
So we have scenes like, let's say, first it's Angela walking out of a police station in the 1930s, 1940s, or 1940s, 1950s actually. And then we'll see a police car driving down the road. But then in color, we'll see people who were killed in the Tulsa Race Massacre.
Yep.
Being dragged behind those police cars. Or at one point, Angela sees somebody put a hood on a Vietnamese kid in a flashback of her own. And at the same time, we see Will Reeves get a hood put over him as he's about to be hung up by police.
Yeah.
So you see all these different points in time, all of these different characters happening at the exact same time visually. You see the 50s. You see Angela Abar. You see the Tulsa Race Massacre. You see Vietnam. You see Dr. Manhattan's. You see all these things are all happening at the exact same moment visually, in a way that only Dr. Manhattan could physically comprehend it.
Yep.
And I think that's like kind of amazing that they were able to really do that.
Like that perspective on what Dr. Manhattan actually goes through.
Yeah, I mean, it ties to one of the major themes.
I mean,
of the
let's
show.
be honest. You know that Dr. Manhattan sees everything, but like, what does it actually feel like to see everything?
I mean, even like I feel like that's an impossible task to truly understand.
No, it is, but
Well,
they
showed
did
really
a
well
good
in
job
the
They do a
episode.
great job of
at
doing
giving a glimpse of it.
it. Yeah, I mean, it also ties really well into like one of the main themes of the show. The show has many of them. It's very tense. In that nothing ever ends, right? Like the same shit that was happening in Tulsa is happening in the 50s, is happening now with the 7th Cavalry. All of it, it's all the same thing. It's all simultaneous. It's all one point. It's not a line. It's a dot. And it's really fucking clever. And it's all just like, it's so good, not even just in those ways. Like that's just the cream, like that's the whipped cream on top of the fucking cake. There's so much about that episode individually that's going on that works so well. The use of jazz music whenever Will Reeves gets angry and attacks somebody.
Yeah.
It's fucking gorgeous.
Or just the sequence when Set the World on Fire is playing.
The sequence when Set the World on Fire is playing. The sequence when he attacks the Klansman in the first warehouse and he ends up outside the deli and he jumps outside of the window when he's getting shot by the racist guy. Ironically, is the exact inversion of a scene earlier in the show where we watch a TV representation of those same events where he jumps in the window to fight back. And here he's actually jumping out of the window to avoid them.
Yeah.
There's so many fucking great things. Even just handling Will as a character is amazing. He's a Tulsa massacre survivor, and he's incredibly angry. He tries to do things by the law. As a kid, he would watch the movie about the Black Oklahoma sheriff, Trust in the Law, and he loved it. He believed in it.
Yeah, I mean that's why he became a police officer.
He became a police officer, and pretty much
Was immediately hated
within
for
a
it.
week.
within a week, he realized you're not going to get justice.
I'm not going to make
the badge.
change
Yeah.
by
His-
being a police officer.
His wife says it best. You're not going to get justice with the badge. You're going to get it with that hood. Because he puts on the hood and becomes.
He
the
puts
hood
on
of
the
justice.
hood that they attempt to hang it.
They
They threatened to hang him with. Like
Yeah.
they hung him, but they didn't go through with it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if you do it again, we're gonna
We're going to murder you. Yeah. He takes that and he takes that noose and he makes it the staples of his identity.
But I feel like he never even really liked being Hood of Justice.
He didn't. He just needed an outlet.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the whole thing. Like at the very end of the show, he talks to Angela and he's like, "You took my pills, so when I put on that hood, you felt what I felt." And she says, "Yeah, angry." And he says, "I thought so too. I wasn't actually angry. I was just hurt."
Yeah.
He needed an outlet. And then he says to her, "Wounds can't heal under a mask."
Exactly.
Fucking great line.
Fucking
Absolutely
great
fucking great
line.
line. And it's true. He was never able to heal this way by being Hooded Justice. Being Hooded Justice was an outlet, but it was never healing. And he was always just going to be angry this way for it. And it wasn't until he gives up Hooded Justice that he's actually able to move on with Angela and her family at the end of the show. God, it's so good.
I guess let's talk about some of the other episodes now.
Yeah. I mean,
that was
you
the
can-
entire.
you can
That
truly-
was just
that was
Hooded
one
Justice.
episode.
You
Yeah.
can truly talk about that episode for an entire fucking
I think so, too.
podcast. It's so good.
Which one do you want to focus on?
Let's touch on the Looking Glass episode. I feel like there's less to talk about there, so we can probably hit that one pretty quickly.
Looking Glass is basically this season's not season.
This series,
Show's
Watchmen.
version of Rorschach.
Yeah, he's kind of like the
Yeah.
equivalent of Rorschach here. He's more of an everyman. He's paranoid. He's arguably a bit delusional, and he's very set in his ways. Even when he realizes that everything was a grand conspiracy, he still takes his this like emergency precaution to avoid against alien attacks, just in case.
Yeah.
because it's hard to break out of that process. He's psychically damaged from the attack in 1986 or whenever it was.
Yeah. Good old Hoboken.
Good old Hoboken, yeah. A city of sinners, as he put it.
Yep.
He is here in this episode trying to help Angela get information on these pills. And throughout it, by the end of the episode, he basically finds out about a new grand conspiracy that's going on where previous members of the Klan and a American politician are trying to start, or actually have successfully started, a war in Tulsa, where the show takes place, where they have used an organization called the 7th Cavalry, who wear masks.
White supremacists, by the way.
White supremacists
Who
to
wear
attack.
masks that are
That influenced by Rorschach.
because they found his journal and they're like, oh, we read it, but they turned it into this alt-right conspiracy
they manipulated Rorschach's journal. That's not. They didn't take any of it for actually what it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Although, again, that at that
'Cause
point we have to
Rorschach
talk
is a
about
crazy
Alan
yeah.
Moore's comic. That's much more difficult at that point. But they used this organization called the 7th Cavalry to escalate violence between them and the police, causing the police to eventually all wear masks. By wearing masks, there is now a level of anonymity between the police, meaning they can do pretty much whatever the fuck they want. They have full authority to throw people into vans and to take people into giant metal containers and do whatever the fuck they need to do to get what they perceive
But even
as
then,
justice.
they still had, like, what was it, locks on their guns, right?
They still have locks on their guns.
They have to call in to
to unlock their guns.
yeah.
It's an interesting scenario, because, like,
It's a world
cops don't
of-
really need guns to, like,
Yeah.
exude authority.
Yeah.
They
It's
can do without it.
It's
They
a world
could.
of paradoxes. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Like, it's a world of extremes. You have, on the one hand, police with no, who watches the Watchmen? There is nobody overlooking the police. There's nobody overlooking the cops or anything like that. But at the same time, you can't pull your gun out unless you get it authorized.
Yep.
So there's no, police violence is now specialized in that way. It's very.
I mean, that just
interesting
means
this gets-
they resort to more, like,
they
primitive
get
tactics.
fucking punches and nunchucks.
Instead of shooting, it's just beat the shit out of people.
Which, I mean, it's much slower to kill someone. So, I mean,
guess.
it's a lot slower. It's very interesting. But, yeah, so the whole of Looking Glass's episode, is basically very much focused on that conspiracy that he discovers, that there is a kind of race being built up between the cops and the white supremacists, and that it's all being orchestrated by the leaders of both the police and the 7th Cavalry, because they want to escalate this and create fear in order to allow for their candidate for presidency to become president. That's what they're trying to get out of this. Yep. And Looking Glass finds out about this conspiracy, and he finds out about the truth about what happened in the 80s, and it is a lot for him
It is,
to
'cause
take.
that basically tears down everything that he believed in. In like 10 minutes.
Pretty much, yeah. Within a 10-minute span, everything that he's pretty much dedicating his life to
He
understanding.
spent literally, like, 20 years or however long that was, literally going into a bunker every day and going through these, like, specific routines to keep himself safe, just to find out it was for nothing.
Yeah, he had a whole security thing in which it tells him, oh, it's coming. It's like, all right, I got to get there. And then he spends, like, a good amount of the episode fighting with the guys who set it up and saying it didn't work.
I mean, Looking Glass really had two pillars in his life. He had the idea about the squid attack, and he had his job as a police officer. He didn't give a shit about his marketing job. He only had two real pillars in his life. And in one moment, the squid attack was proven fake, and the police chief was proven to be working with the 7th Cavalry that caused the deaths of a whole bunch of cops in a previous attack. And all at the end of the show, all he's left with is his shitty marketing job as Careless Whisper plays on. And damn, that's another good fucking episode. I mean, the highs in Watchmen are insane. Watchmen just has such perfect episodes at points. It's truly
It
crazy.
has at least three.
Now, maybe let's talk about what we think to be the least perfect episode.
Yeah, so I'll
which
give
is the finale.
I'll give a quick summary of the finale. We learned that the politician who has been taking part in the war between the cops and the 7th Cavalry has a new aspiration. He says in a line that I find to be hilarious, and yet I could 100% see an evil villain.
Is it his
politician
last line?
saying- No, not that one.
Oh, okay.
The one where he says, "It's incredibly white. It's incredibly white. It's incredibly hard to be a white man in America right now. So I'm gonna try being a blue one." And I find that to be such a cheesy fucking line, but I
hits
100%
hard.
could see Ted Cruz fucking saying that.
Yeah.
Even though he's Hispanic, I could see him fucking saying that line. 100%. No doubt in my mind. It's like it feels like something I could definitely. It's oddly fitting as much as it is incredibly corny. So basically, he wants to steal Dr. Manhattan's powers and become a god. He wants to become a god. That is his end goal here.
How does that work out?
He gets turned into mushy blood blush.
Yeah, he blows up.
It's
Instantly.
not great. Yeah, instantly gets fucking killed by it. But yeah, so so when we were watching this weekly, I felt that the finale of the series was a bit of a letdown.
Well, that's not even the end of the series. After he dies, the real
Then
villain
the
of the
real
show,
villain is Lady True. We have not talked about her. She's also
Lady
Mandius'
True.
daughter.
Lady True is a trillionaire in the show who is eventually revealed to be Ozymandias' daughter, who her mother stole his. He stole his semen, right?
Yeah, she stole his semen.
That's what happened. Yeah, she basically impregnated herself, and then Lady True happens, who is just as smart as Ozymandias,
if not smarter.
If not smarter. Well, I mean, could be. Yeah, probably, maybe smart because she saved him.
Yeah.
Yeah, she saves him, and then eventually become like her whole plan is she wants to have Manhattan's power so she can do.
She wants
good.
to save the world.
She believes she can save the world,
but not because she's a good person, but she's bored.
And she's also an egomaniac, just like her father.
Yeah,
he literally says in Latin at the end, "It takes one to know one."
Yep.
They're both absolute egomaniacs. But so yeah, that's the main plot of the show. The actual twist ends up being that it is.
It's still funny to think that that's the voice of Pickles from BoJack.
Really? Holy shit, that's fucking Pickles.
Yeah.
Oh my god, wow. I did not realize
I think for like the 5th season, she's not in the last one because she was doing something else, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I did not realize that was voice of Pickles. But yeah, so basically that is the end game of the show. I do not think that is a particularly interesting end game. I don't really find it to be.
Well, even then, she doesn't succeed.
She doesn't succeed, but I don't think that's super. Like the show presents us with so many interesting questions.
She doesn't. Okay, so the ending, she doesn't succeed. Manhattan is killed and allows himself to die because he believes that that's the.
We'll get to that.
That's going to happen anyway, and it is. The show ends on a cliffhanger, but she ate the egg and becomes Manhattan.
It seems like Dr. Manhattan gives his powers to his wife Angela Abar. But
she totally has it. If anyone thinks otherwise, then why would they end it like that?
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. But yeah, so she definitely has the powers at the end. However, I do not think that that taking Dr. Manhattan's power is the most interesting way you could have handled the ending of the show. And I definitely think it's not the most interesting way you can handle Manhattan. And that is where I have my biggest grievance with the show.
I mean, that is a grievance. I would agree with that. When I first watched the episode, I was like, okay, that's more or less exactly what it was hinting at to begin with. I mean, it's more or less what they were going for. And at the time, I was like, okay, I'm not going to say it's an amazing finale. I feel like, okay, it is what it is. It didn't have an ending that was like, oh my God, amazing.
No, I agree. I mean, that's obviously, like, it's not the writing that's wrong here. No. It's that Lindelof made a decision. And I personally think that was not a particularly interesting decision he could have made. I think that was probably one of the least interesting ways he could have really taken the character. He said in an interview and then in the show themselves, they compare the use of Dr. Manhattan in this series as comparable to Zeus, right? As a god coming down from a mountain and getting later, in this case, actually falling in love with Angela Abar. I don't find that to be particularly compelling. I think it's all right. I think the idea of a god shedding his godliness is interesting enough.
Not that. I kind of don't like that they never touched upon the relationship between him and Lori.
Yeah, no, that really got nothing but one mention.
Glossed over that
they do in a weird like third dimensional way reference it because when Lori's there and she sees Dr. Manhattan brought in, she says the fact that they captured him is a thermodynamic miracle. When
they do
comics,
reference that they.
She was also still in love with him.
She was also definitely still in love with him. Blue dildo.
Massive.
But thermodynamic miracle is what Dr. Manhattan referred to her as in the Watchmen comics. When he realized that the comedian had attempted to rape her mother, but then in the end, her mother would eventually fall in love with the comedian and have Lori. She was a birth that should not have happened, and her existence defies expectation. She is a thermodynamic miracle. In the same way that Angela Abar is, being the survivor of 2 Tulsa Race Massacre attacks and someone who's gone through pretty much a string of just bad shit her whole fucking life, she is also a thermodynamic miracle, which I think is is an interesting way to tie that part together. But I do still think that the way they handle Dr. Manhattan is uninteresting. And the biggest reason I feel that is because I
agree with it, though.
Another story came out at the exact same time. Well, was coming out around the same time and ended somewhat later. That also serves as a sequel to Watchmen, except it takes place in the comics and it ties in the DC universe.
And does not touch the show at all.
It does not touch the show at all, completely unrelated. And that would be Doomsday Clock. And I'm not going to talk on it too much because we are going to definitely get to that eventually. But I do want to talk about the key issue that I have with Watchmen 2019 that I think Doomsday Clock does significantly better. And the idea is, in Watchmen 2019, they treat Dr. Manhattan as a god. He's treated, his main characteristic within that show is as a god. And all the ways that they play with his character are based off that fact. He's a god who gives up his godlyhood to fall in love. That's the way that they put him. He's a god who sees everything simultaneously and can't change it.
Yeah, in Watchmen, it kind of just felt like he just decided not to be a god for a bit.
That was pretty much his character, quote unquote, arc in Watchmen. And I don't find that particularly interesting.
There wasn't much like
the ending of Watchmen. He said, "I want to go to a new place because I'm bored of these people."
Yeah, which I mean, he technically does in 2019 show.
He does by literally giving up his godhood.
I guess that's
because
a fair way to look.
But I feel like it could have been done in a better way.
And I think it ultimately was in Doomsday Clock. In Doomsday Clock, they do treat Manhattan as a god, but that's not his main attribute that they're deconstructing. In Doomsday Clock, he is a being of inaction, which he is. He is completely passive. He sees all of time simultaneously, and because of that, he believes that nothing can change because it's already happened because I've already experienced it. This is a big part of the show. I am going to die here because I've already seen it. Yeah, that's how the show happens. It bases off of that. In Doomsday Clock, the comic, they handle it in a bit more of an interesting way. They pit him up pretty much against Superman, the literal man of action, the man who came from action comics. It's the unstoppable shield and the unbreakable weapon, right? That is the ultimate confrontation. Except it's not really a confrontation because how the story really ends is effectively Superman inspires Dr. Manhattan for the first time in a very long time. Yeah. Dr. Manhattan has he sees the future, and in the future he sees Superman coming towards him, and then everything goes black, and he doesn't know if that's because he destroys Superman or he doesn't know if Superman destroys him or he destroys everything. Yeah. Those are the only two reasons he believes that it can go black. In the reality, he chose not to look forward. That's the real reason he can't see anything beyond that. He has chosen not to go forward, and instead, he comes to a conclusion that there is no reason for him to be a man of inaction. Just because he saw all these things happen, doesn't mean they have to. Yeah, he basically gathers back his own agency.
That was my biggest problem with the show.
Yeah,
is that he saw all these things happening and he just chose not to do anything.
Yeah, he in the show
and the comic
in the show and in the Watchmen comics is a little different because he can't actually see everything at that point.
Well, I mean, they block it.
Yeah, they block it.
Yeah, but in the show they make it seem like he can see everything. Like he can see everything. So like the fact that he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna die here.
He sees everything and he chooses to give up his own personal
maybe it's
agency.
like some fucking Doctor Strange shit where it's like. He dies
only
here,
one
but he
way
knows what happens after.
I don't know. Maybe,
but I don't think it was.
I don't think it was.
If you see your death, like it probably goes blank after for him.
One way or another, he could still choose to do things differently. He's denied himself his own agency because he's omnipotent. In the comics, he regains his agency by the end of it, and there are a lot of very large similarities to Watchmen 2019 and the comic. There is a character who takes the place of Rorschach in a similar way to Looking Glass, who's mentally scarred by the psychic damage.
Yeah.
There is somebody that he gives his powers to as he dies at the end of the comic. There's a lot of these very strong similarities.
So those two things do happen.
There's more, but I just can't remember them at the top of my head at this point. But there's all these parallels between the two, and I just ultimately feel like Doomsday Clock is a better piece of work on its own because of that. However, I don't think either Doomsday Clock or 2019's Watchmen work as a real successor to Alan Moore's comic. Because I don't think you can actually write a sequel to that in a way.
Yeah, I don't
think you can. I think it has to be on its own.
Are you gonna say that a way that would satisfy more? Because that's never gonna happen.
Well, that's never gonna happen. I think in a way that satisfies the narrative. I think it's impossible to make a proper sequel to Watchmen. I don't think either of them does it right. I think they're both good works on their own, but I don't think either one of them is a true worthy successor to
Watchmen.
Yeah, I don't think that's even possible.
I don't.
Well, you have the episodes.
What'll happen?
It has great episodes.
No, I'm saying you have episodes that do connect to Watchmen in a way that that works. Like Hood of Justice.
Sure.
All the single.
But
episodes.
as a whole, I can't say that it's a real.
Are you basing it more on the ending though?
I mean,
no, I'm basing it on the whole show.
No, I'm saying if the ending was different, would you change your mind?
No. I think that the show should have been entirely focused on the Minutemen.
Was the show supposed to be a continuation of the comics?
It is.
Really?
Yes. It is. It is a continuation of the comics, 100%. I think that the show should have been more about the Minutemen and less about the Watchmen at the end of it.
So a prequel?
No. I mean, you could have taken it in the present, done everything you did with Will Reeves, just don't have Dr. Manhattan if you don't know how to use him right.
Fair.
Or if you make the wrong choice. That's how I think
that's my biggest critique of the show is that Dr. Manhattan just felt useless.
I
mean, granted, he was literally only in 2 episodes. His own episode
in 2 episodes,
great.
he was useless.
Well, one's a backstory.
I know, but
I'm agreeing with you.
I don't even think that he's useless. I just think they didn't take him in an interesting way.
Yeah, he didn't.
They took him in they made a decision. It was the wrong decision, I think.
He's useless in the sense that he agreed, and that we've said it already. He just basically sits down and dies because he knows it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's why he's useless. But I wouldn't say useless is the right word.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not useless, but I don't know how to describe
Yeah,
it.
no, like
inactive.
Inactive.
He's
Just
a
sits on
being
his
of
ass.
inactivity. That's what he is in the Watchmen comic, and that's what he is here. Except that in the Watchmen comic, he's shown that he's capable of changing and evolving as a person because he does it multiple times throughout the original series. And I think it would have been much more interesting to see him properly do that in a way that isn't I Fell in Love. Yeah. So that's my biggest thing with Watchmen.
Let's get some final thoughts on all three of our shows.
Yeah, let's do the final thoughts on the ranking. God, I wish we could have talked more about each one of these because there is so fucking much to talk about.
Yeah,
that we had to skip over. There's
if
so
we
much.
did, we would have been 6 hours.
We'd be here for this. Would be a much longer podcast than we intended. It's already a much longer podcast than we intended it to.
Not really.
We'll see.
By what? 2 minutes?
Editor in chief. What's our time at right now? This was supposed to be an hour-long podcast.
No, it wasn't. We said 30 minutes for each.
1 hour 30.
Yeah, we said 30 for each.
Ignore everything I say from this point on. We're fine.
Just got turned off Chris's mic.
Yeah, I'm going to shut myself
I'm
up.
going to give my personal rankings for these three shows.
Let's start from the bottom to top. So 3.
3 for me was The Boys.
Also The Boys for me.
Tyler?
Yeah, but okay, I will say this. I will put Boys last, but
it's not a bad show.
It's not a bad show.
It's not a bad show. But then my other ranking, actually, wait, no, it's gonna be the same thing. Never mind.
Yeah, I think The Boys. I think is the weakest show. It has the least to say, and it has the least interesting concepts around it. But it's fun. It's a soap opera.
I liked watching it.
Yeah, I like watching.
I just think that the other two shows had so much more in them. That
it just gets blown out of the water by the competition this week. Truly.
Yeah,
I will say the best performance is Stars though. Against two.
Well, I think the guy who plays Will Reeves when he's older gives the best performance out of everything here.
As he's older though?
Yep, as he's older. Yeah, I think he gives the best performance out of everything.
Over the actor in the young one?
Yep, 100%. I think he's the best performance in this entire...
He has like 4 scenes.
And every fucking one of them is golden. And also he has way more than that. And they're all also golden.
Yeah.
All right, so that's 3. 2?
2 for me. This is a tough one, I think.
This is tough. No, I agree.
I'm going to say right now, if I go only by highs, it's Watch. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to still give Watchmen the top spot.
I think 2 for me is Watchmen.
I feel like Doom is
but it's hard.
Just because I like all the best parts of Watchmen, I like a lot more than the best parts of Doom. Even if the ending is a set for me, the ending would be like a 6 or 7 compared to the rest of the 10s.
Yeah, I'm probably the most torn about this because I still do have the most problems with the Watchmen season finale.
Yeah, I mean I liked Watchmen. I loved Watchmen actually, but some of the lows,
No, you're right. I mean, there's a couple things we didn't get to talk about, like how they handled Ozymandias at the end, how they handled Looking Glass.
Yeah, he just dies.
He's knocked out with a wrench.
Like he's knocked out with a wrench and arrested.
It's underwhelming. It's underwhelming.
That's cool.
Which I understand, like the idea that this guy who sees himself to be like God gets just fucking taken out with a wrench the quickest way possible. It's like it's ironic.
Yeah, but at the same time,
good, but is it the best it could have been?
Yeah.
But then again, I feel like I can't help but think that I'm maybe holding Watchmen up to a higher standard than I'm holding.
Yeah, because you put like a bunch of investment into the actual original.
Yeah, because, I mean, I know a lot about the original comic, and I'm a big fan of Doomsday Clock, and I'm a big fan of this series as a whole.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think that there were such highs in this before the finale that maybe I'm holding it against. I do think in a weird way I might give Doom Patrol second spot, and it's just barely.
It's really tough.
Just
because
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because I'm basing it more on the highs.
I mean, it's funny. We talked about this before.
It's so hard to look away from the highs.
We talked about this before, and before I said I think Watchmen gets the second place, but I think honestly after rewatching some episodes last night, I think Doom Patrol gets the second spot here for me.
Phase on.
I could see that, but I put Doom Patrol second. I mean, first.
So you have Doom Patrol first.
I put Watchmen second.
And then the two of us have Watchmen first, I guess?
Yeah. Granted, I think I have more... I mean, it's probably because I binged Doom Patrol compared to me watching Boys. And I'm all caught up with the Boys, and I've seen it at a slower pace, and that's why I like it more, I guess. But in terms of what it actually is, I definitely have it last.
I really think 1, 2 is like interchangeable.
No, I do really think that depending on the day of the week. Like the thing is that they're very.
I could sleep on this, and I'll think Watchmen's better tomorrow.
Like you really can't compare them.
I'm not. It's not really.
Different.
I'm not even saying.
Well, then
Watchmen
we have no show.
Like, well, yes, I know. we need to get away with doing things we're not supposed to here.
But like, I'm not even really saying that one show's better than the other.
Yeah, it's personal enjoyment.
I enjoyed watching Doom Patrol a little more. I think.
I mean, I do think I enjoyed the questions, or I guess I enjoyed what Watchmen made me think about more. Where I was in a thought process about it at the end of the day.
It gives you way more.
It gives you more. I do wish he did more interesting things, but I can't help but even enjoy the fact that it highlights Doomsday Clock because of its misstep.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Watchmen and me have an interesting relationship that I think I'm gonna continue fucking having for a very long time as I think about this show. But those are our lists. That's the binge.
That is our first episode.
We made it through our first episode.
The end of our first episode.
Holy shit. I can't believe it. Wow. That was a very that was an interesting set of shows to watch. I gotta say. That was interesting. Certainly enjoyable.
All right.
Well, I want to say thank you guys for tuning in to our first episode.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully that was enjoyable. Maybe.
Hopefully that was enjoyable. We'll see. We'll see, and we'll fix it in post.
We go negative next week for no reason.
Yeah, next week it's even worse.
We lose subscribers.
Yeah, we'll be seeing you guys next week. Well, hoping to release content on a weekly schedule. Different
hopefully,
themes.
maybe.
Maybe
we'll try. Our best.
Listen, we're only human, right? You can't blame us for everything we do wrong.
This is our only podcast.
We blame the
This is our
screenwriters
only
of this.
podcast.
This is it. One episode and we're done. Yeah, no, you got bored of it. Even though we judge every person who's worked on any of these shows, you're not allowed to judge us for if we ever fuck up.
You can judge Chris. Huh? You can totally judge Chris.
Nah, I
try not to judge him that much.
Join me against Tyler, please.
All right, but
yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
We will see you guys next. You'll see us next week.